Hello there everyone, and welcome to another edition of Lydia's Crafty Corner with me, Lydia, in my little crafty corner. So today we are going to be talking about some monochromatic backgrounds. I just love the look of this. I just think it's very, very pretty, but you can also change it up by just changing the colours in it and it gives it a different look. So to start with, I'm going to be using the ever so pretty Sunflower Daisy stamp set, and you can just see how well these do layer up. I am going to create a lighter image just by missing out the first layer and just starting with the second one. So I'm starting with the second one here. I have missed the base layer out and I'm using some of the beautiful Eastern Sky to do this layer here. So I'm just going to stamp a couple of these again in like a triangle formula that I normally do. Odds is always a good one to start with. So that was the blue one, and for the green one I'm going to be using exactly the same stamp. So this is the second layer of that sunflower, and I'm going to be using some frayed leaf for this one. So because we've missed out that base layer, the flower is going to look really, really lighter because we do have that white showing as the base layer. So next up, so the second layer for this, which is the third layer, so because we've missed out the base one, I am going to be using the Forest Glades. So these are quite easy to layer up. I do manage to do it quite easily with my acrylic block, but if you are having trouble, we do have the layering guide on the back of the stamp set. Also, you could use a stamp positioning tool to help you layer these images as well, but I do find that you can do it with a block as well. So for the second layer of the blue flower, which is the third layer, remember we've missed out the base layer, I am using the Aquamarine. Again, I'm using my little acrylic block. I do find that I work quicker with my acrylic block for some reason, especially when doing backgrounds like this, so I don't have to keep moving the stamp off my stamp positioner to move it into a different place. I just move my block around and it lands where it wants to and makes a pretty pattern. So for the third layer, I'm going to be using the beautiful Azurite. So this is from the Lapis Lazuli set, if you do have this, and this is the darkest one in that set. So I'm just going to add in the really dark shadows with this beautiful dark blue colour. It's navy, but it's not quite that. I call this probably a royal blue, but it is very, very pretty. So once I have done that one, I'm going to move on to the green. Again, I'm using that same image stamp. So this is the fourth layer, which we're using for the third, and I'm going to be using the Evergreen ink for this one. So again, I'm just going to pop this into place with my acrylic block. Again, if you are having trouble, please do check out our layering guide. Also use a stamp positioner if you're not that comfortable with it as well. So once I have these in place, I'm then going to take the mask stencil for this set, and I'm going to be using these to cover my images that I've already stamped in replace of a mask that I do make myself. So these ones are like pre-made masks. To stick these in place, I'm just going to use a little bit of Altenew tape pen, and as you can see, I took a little bit of the stick off with my finger. So I'm just going to do the same with the daisies. So these are only going to be one layer because we're missing out the first layer. So I'm just using the second detail layer for this. And for the blue card, I'm going to be using the Eastern Sky. So this is the one that we used for the lightest layer on the sunflower. We're also going to be using it for this one as well. So as you can see, before I do move the mask to a different flower, I do take a dry tissue just to wipe off any of that excess ink so I don't splodge it anywhere. It does help me stay a little bit cleaner than I normally would. So I do recommend taking just a dry tissue on that mask every time you do use it, just to get rid of the ink that's on there. So I do stamp around those sunflowers and do add a little couple more daisies around the edge. Once I've done that, again, I'm going to take a mask stencil. So this is the one for the daisy. You're just going to want to make sure which way it goes before you do stick it down with a little bit of repositionable adhesive. Once it's in place, I'm going to take some of those little leaf fronds from the sunflower daisy set, and I'm just going to stamp these in between the images. As you can see, I'm going to keep moving my little masks just to make sure that the images that I want to be covered are covered up, and I don't stamp over any of the images that I don't want to. I do stamp over a couple, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. So once I have done that with the beautiful Aquamarine ink, I'm then going to move in with the Azurite. So this one is the darker one, and I've taken the little tiny little branch from the stamp set there just to fill in any more images spaces that I've got. I'm then going to move on to the centers of the flowers, and as with the flowers I missed out the base layer, I'm going to miss out the base layer with these centerpieces as well. So for this little centerpiece, so with the one for the sunflower, I have missed the first layer and I've used some Eastern Sky for the second layer, and I'm going to use Aquamarine for the third layer. The little centers do line up really easily, and I do find that you don't have to layer these up as quite so much as the petals, I should say. So for the centers of the flowers, again I've missed out the first layer, and then I've stamped the second and third using the Aquamarine and Azurite inks. So as I did with the blue one, I'm going to do exactly the same with the green one. I'm just going to change up some of the leaves later on. So I'm adding the mask over the beautiful sunflower that we've already stamped, and I'm going to add some daisies in with my lightest green ink, which is the frayed leaf. As you can see, when I do move that mask around, I do clean the ink off with this one as well. So once I've done that, I'm going to add in some leaves, and with the flowers, because I missed it out that base image, I am going to miss out the base image with the leaves as well, just to give me some more of that white popping through the background. So for the leaves, I've missed out the base layer, and then I've done the second and the third layers using some of the forest glades for the second layer, and then the Evergreen for the third. Sorry, my mind just missed it then. So again, I am moving the little masks around when I feel I need to. So I'm just cleaning them off, popping them into place, and then stamping my leaves into place again. So once I have finished all of these larger leaves, I'm going to go in as before, like I did with the other background, with some of the smaller branches, and I'm just going to use some forest glades for this. And then I'm going to pop in the centers. Again, I have missed out that base image for the centers. So for the centers of the sunflower, I've gone for the second and the third, and I've gone with the frayed leaf and the forest glades. And then for the centers of the daisies, again, I've missed out that base image, and then I've gone in with frayed forest glades, sorry, for the second layer, and then some of the evergreen for the third. For the sentiment strips, I'm using the new sentiment strips stamp set. I just love this. There is so many different sentiments on here for all different occasions, and I do feel that you can make batches of these when you need to. So to do this, I'm just going to be stamping this onto some black cardstock, and I'm just going to lay these into my little misty, and I'm going to align them up on the lines, on the grid lines that you do have them on there, and I'm just going to put lots and lots of these sentiments on there so I can stamp a lot of these at once, and then just cut strips of them when I need them. So again, I'm just going to be using these onto some black cardstock, a jet black cardstock, and because I'm embossing these, I've added a little bit of talcum powder just so the powder doesn't stick where I don't want it to. I've inked these up then using some of the embossing ink from Altenew, and I am going to be heat setting this using some pure white embossing powder. So once I've done that, you can see that we have that full piece there. So I can just cut these into strips and use them in whatever card I want to, or maybe chop them up so they're a little bit smaller, but I do like the strips of these. So once I have cut the strips of the sentiments that I do want to use, I've just added a little bit of foam tape behind them and then added them into place on my card base where I want them to be. So here are the cards complete. I just love how these look. It kind of looks like a piece of fabric, and I think it's very pretty. I really do hope that you've enjoyed the video and that you like the technique that is involved as well. Also, if you do create something inspired by this, it would be great if you do share so I can check it out. Again, thank you so much for watching everyone, and we will see you again really soon. Bye bye!